Hey everyone, I'm going to be out a little bit this week for various reasons, so we're going to learn some of these things virtually. So I'm going to post some videos and we're going to see if we can learn how to do these lessons that way. If you haven't done so yet, you may want to pause this video for a moment and get out your note packet and homework packet for Unit 3. And so pause that if you need to, and if you've already got it out, then let's just get going. So, okay, right now I am on actually the assignment packet, so you might want to just go to that packet, and we're on 3.1, and I'm going to do problems 1 and 2 with you. So I'm going to show you how to solve a quadratic equation by factoring. Before we do that, let's take a look at what that even means we're doing. So remember last unit we were solving quadratics, and we were doing it by graphing. So solving a quadratic, maybe a quadratic looks like this, right? So solving a quadratic, remember, means figuring out where that quadratic hits the ground. And remember last unit when we were doing this, we would put this into the graphing calculator. Remember, we'd hit like second, calculate 0, and then we'd find this, write it down. Second, calculate 0, we'd find this one, and then write it down. So solving the equation by factoring just means that we're going to figure out where the quadratic hits the ground without actually graphing it. It turns out it's pretty quick to do it that way, and here we go. So we have a quadratic, x squared minus 4x minus 12, and we want to know when that quadratic hits the ground, when it's equal to 0. So here's how you do it. The first thing I'd recommend is just making a big X below the problem. So take a moment to do that. And what we're looking for are numbers that multiply to the very last number that's by itself. And you're going to put that last number that's by itself right there. So we're looking for two numbers that multiply to negative 12. And at the same time, we need those numbers to add to whatever the number in the middle is with the x attached to it. So negative 4. Add. So we're looking for two numbers that if we added them up, we'd get negative 4, and if we multiplied them together, we'd get negative 12. Remember, there was a problem like this on the last test. The reason we put that on there is to get you a little bit of practice doing this before we got to Unit 3. So here we go. I like to just start with the number that we're multiplying by, and I don't even pay attention to the negative sign right away. I just focus on the 12, and I just think, what are all the ways I could get two numbers, whole numbers, to times to 12? So 12 and 1, 6 and 2, and 4 and 3. I think that's it. Those are the ways to multiply numbers and get them to be 12. And what I'm looking for next are, I know that I need those numbers to be about 4 apart. So which of these combinations are kind of 4 apart? 6 and 2 are. So I think 6 and 2, that's somehow going to be the one, that's going to be the bundle I use. But I don't want them to be, I want them to be negative 4 if I add them up. So which one of these numbers could I put a negative by to make them negative 4? So if I put a negative 6 here, negative 6 and 2 would be negative 4. So it looks like I want the negative sign to be on this one. And if I multiply negative 6 and 2, will I get negative 12? Yep. So I have found my two numbers. So what I can do next is I can rewrite this equation right here in factored form. So what that means is it will look like that. So it'll be x minus 6. You just put an x right here, and then you put an x right here again, and then you put whatever number's right there next to it. So it'll be, this is a positive 2, so plus 2. So if you were to put this into your graphing calculator, and if you were to put this into your graphing calculator and graph them, you'd see that it's the exact same thing. It's just a different way of writing the exact same thing. So solving means figure out where it hits the ground. So we know that these things usually hit the ground in 2 places. That's why we see 2 factors. This will show you one of the places it hits the ground, and that'll show you the other place where it hits the ground. So what you do is you just look at each one separately, and go x minus 6. Figure out where that one hits the ground, so plus 6. So it will hit the ground at 6, and x plus 2 will also hit the ground when x is equal to negative 2. So I don't know exactly what this quadratic looks like, but I know that if I were to graph it, I know that it would have roots or solutions, or it would hit the ground at 6 and negative 2. It's just a different way. Those are just different ways of saying the same thing. Roots, zeros, solutions, where it hits the ground, all ways of saying the same thing.